getting pregnant despite having carefully timed unprotected intercourse for 1 year amongst married couples could be agonizing. Why does this happen? You might ask. According to the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan, there are more than 100,000 cases of infertility-related cases in Nigeria annually. What are the causes of infertility in men and women? On this episode of Health Options, we shall take a look at reproductive health with focus on infertility. You probably have heard about the potency of tea when it comes to healing and revitalizing the body. By the way, there are several of them working for different purposes. What do you know about organic tea? Which tea is right for you? Do stay with us on Nature's Corner for the answers. Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Salwa Khalil Ibrahim. Joining us now is a consultant gynecologist and fertility expert who is also the head of IVF unit at the Federal Medical Center, Jabi, Abuja, Dr. John Ikwani. Many thanks for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. Good morning.
Okay. When we say reproductive health, what does that mean generally?
Well, reproductive health definition is adapted from the WHO definition for health, which has to do with a state of complete physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and not just the absence of diseases or infirmities, especially as it relates to the reproductive system and the reproductive processes, both in the female and the male as well. It also involves the right and the freedom of a person to decide when and how to engage in the reproductive health system and to further its delivery of his offspring. So that's in general what reproductive health entails.
Okay, I guess this also involves fertility, not just among male, female gender rather, and also the male. I want you to further expatiate. What are those branches of reproductive health? Because most people will tend to see it from the aspect of the female gender alone.
Well, reproductive health or reproductive health challenges affect both the male and the female in almost equal proportions. As a matter of fact, infertility problems affect males in equal proportion to females. Statistics have shown from studies that about 40% of problems that relate to infertility are attributable to the female. Another 40% is attributable to the male. And in about 10 to 15% of cases, we have a combined cause of infertility, meaning that we have a contribution from the male and another contribution from the female in that couple. Then in another 5 to 10%, we define it as unexplained infertility, where laboratory tests, routine investigations have been shown to be normal, but yet the couple are not able to achieve a pregnancy within the specified time. So we call that unexplained infertility. So these are some of the major causes, in broad terms, of infertility in a couple, especially in Nigeria.
Okay. Now, I would like to ask now, what are the most common reproductive health challenges we see, especially in Nigeria?
Well, when we come to fertility challenges, as it is, let's talk about the female. One of the problems with the female, or the commonest causes of infertility in the female, has to do with tubal factors infertility. And it is attributable mainly to infections that are poorly treated or poorly managed, as the case may be, and they are often sexually transmitted infections. Examples range from gonorrhea, syphilis, and the likes. And most of the target organs that these infections affect are the tubes. The tubes are where the eggs and the sperm meet for fertilization to take place. And over time, due to the destructive nature of the organisms that attack this tissue, and the healing process by scar formation, these tubes get blocked, either singly or both of them get blocked. And so even if other parameters are normal, you have a situation where the couple is not able to achieve fertility. So those are the commonest cause of infertility in Nigeria, and may I say in Africa as a whole. Then you also have other problems that affect the ovaries, which is where the eggs come from. You have situations where the lady has ovaries, but she has what we call reduced egg reserve. That may be age-related because of advanced age, or maybe due to premature constitutional causes, meaning that before the age of 35, 40, the lady has exhausted her ovarian reserve, either due to constitutional causes or due to treatment or exposure to radiations. We also have situations where the woman is born without ovaries in total. A woman can be born with a womb, a uterus, but she doesn't have the presence of ovaries. And so such a woman may need the services of an egg donor to be able to help her to be able to get pregnant. We also have problems that have to do with complications from illegal abortions, where abortions are carried out in uncertified places, unwanted pregnancies are eliminated, and as a result, the endometrial linings are scarred as a result of the poor equipment that are used, or as a result of complications that follow the applications of such equipment, causing infection, scarring of the uterus, and the likes. Then for the man, because we often forget the man, the man, we have a situation where you have either problems with sperm production, or the man has sperm production, but there's a problem with sperm delivery at the right places. So you can have a situation where there's testicular failure, where the testis fails to produce sperms in sufficient quantities to be delivered at the right places. Or you have a situation that can follow adequate productions of sperms, but you have it not being able to be delivered during sex and ejaculatory processes, where the epididymis, which is a similitude of the fallopian tube in the female, is also blocked as a result of infections that arise from sexually transmitted diseases, such as syphilis, gonorrhea, or as a result of trauma from falls, kicks to the groins, surgeries that are poorly performed, such as herniorrhaphies, and the likes. You also have men that have retrograde ejaculation from prostate-related problems, either from enlarged prostates or from prostates that have been removed surgically as a result of enlarged or diseased prostates. So you have a situation where they ejaculate, but the ejaculate does not enter the urethra, and so is not delivered into the female genital tract. So you have retrograde ejaculation. Then there are other situations where the testis can be damaged as a result of trauma or as a result of tumors, cancers, that destroy the testicular tissues. So you have such problems where the man eventually may need donor sperms to be able to help him to get pregnant or to impregnate a woman. Okay. So these are just, in summary, some of the problems. Then you have problems that have to do with the couples that I will call social problems. You have a man living in Abuja. He's working in National Assembly. The wife is in an oil rig in NNPC in Port Harcourt. He's making money. They meet only once in a month. And so it's possible that when they meet sexually during that period, it may not be the fertile period of the woman. And so he misses the eggs. And so we call that inadequate coital exposure or inadequate sexual exposure. That's a social cause of infertility. So in all these scenarios that I've mentioned, you have the couple not being able to achieve a pregnancy for up to a year or even more than a year of cohabiting together. So these are some of the causes of infertility in broad terms.
Okay, doctor, we'll take a breather here. When we return, we'll take up from where we stop. Join us again.
Kuka is that's the name in Hausa.
And that is call it Ose.
In Yoruba.
Ose, Igi Ose.
Okay, so I know it's Kuka.
I am delighted to have you join us on Health Options, the program that not only tracks government policies on health.
The total cholesterol is made up of some components. The high density lipoprotein, which is the good cholesterol, the low density hypoprotein, which is the bad.
Cervical cancer, a type of cancer that develops in a woman's cervix.
There were opportunities for women to get screened for both cervical and breast cancer, maybe up to 30,000, but we'll be having figures of 5,000.
Just joined us, you are watching Health Options on the NTA, and we have been talking about reproductive health with Dr. John Ikwani. Many thanks for being there, Doctor.
Thank you very much for having me once again.
Okay, now let's get on to talk about access to medication, especially diagnostics for reproductive health now in Nigeria generally. What do you have to say about that? Do people have enough access? A lot of people, we were having issue of fertility, but of course, as the Nigerians that we are, who say we are waiting for the right time. What is your opinion about that?
Now, one of the things I must say about our environment is that medications for fertility are usually not gotten over the counter without a doctor's prescription. Normal people these days, because of the desire to have pregnancy, and not just to have pregnancy, but to have multiple pregnancies, that is twins and above, they go over the counter without a doctor's prescription, and they take these drugs above recommended dosages just because of a desire to have multiple pregnancies. Of course, in other climes, this is punishable by certain jail terms. In our environment, that's where prescriptions and the dispense of medications are not well regulated, you may find such things happening. But I know that the agencies are working towards tightening the grip on some of these processes so that processes and drug dispensary are something that should be able to pass through the prescription of a doctor and passes through recognized and certified pharmaceutical companies. So, for a person to be able to gain access to drugs that will assist that person in getting pregnant, the person needs to go to a certified hospital, a registered hospital, and see a certified and well-trained gynecologist to be able to assess and carry out basic investigations and tests to be able to know the right approach to follow in addressing that reproductive health problem. Certain of them may not necessarily need drugs. For example, the one I just gave about the couple that are living apart and meet once in a month. We don't need drugs for that. What we need is to expose them adequately to sexual exposure. And that will mean either one of them relocating to join the other person so that they live properly in their home. And by living properly in their home, having regular coital exposure, they may be able to get pregnant without having the use of drugs. But there are others that after adequate coital exposure and relevant tests have been conducted, you may be able to find problems that may lead to the prescription of drugs. And I'll give an example. If a woman has done certain tests, such as tuber patency tests, an example of which is the hysterosalpingogram, popularly called HSG, and she has been found to have bilateral tuber blockage, should we need assisted reproductive techniques, of which IVF is an important example.
Okay.
And for IVF to be done, she needs to be assessed whether or not she'll be using her eggs. If she's going to be using her eggs, she will have certain medications, which are prescription medications, that are supposed to be given in required doses on a daily basis or on a periodic basis, and should be coming in for monitoring to be sure that she's either not under-responding or over-responding, so that the dosages can be adjusted appropriately by a doctor. That is the right thing to do. And then when the time comes for egg retrieval and the culture process to be done, it is well supervised in a proper regulated environment. So that is how drugs should be used under such conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
You spoke about IVF just now, and I know it's no longer news in Nigeria, but then access to it, of course, and then, you know, the cost of IVF. A lot of people would love to go into it, but then the access and the cost, you know, how can we be able to make this issue of reproductive health generally accessible and easy to couples?
Information is key. Education is key. Public enlightenment is key. Even though you rightly said that people are aware of it, but do they really know what it is? Do they know what it entails? Do they know the processes involved and the rest? That is the first thing to do, public enlightenment. And public enlightenment should be done by the right people and by the right associations. And a very prominent association in this environment and in this country is the AFRH, the Association of Fertility and Reproductive Health, which is championing the issues surrounding infertility and assisted reproductive technology, of which some of us are members. That is one thing to do, enlightenment. The second thing that needs to be done is to be able to, of course, that is already ongoing, is that the number of providers are increasing. 20 years ago in this country, you just had about 2 or 3 IVF providers in the country. But now, as I speak, in Abuja alone, you have almost 27 or 30 registered IVF providers in Abuja alone.
Wow.
In the whole country, it is nearing somewhere between 50 to 70. So it is becoming widely accessible and widely available in Nigeria. Even in states that didn't have IVF service providers, they are beginning to have 1 or 2 in such states. Secondly, thirdly, we're beginning to have increased access to medications, and may I say cheaper medications. Because before now, you had medications coming from Europe, coming from the United States. Of course, they are very quality medications, but again, they will be very expensive. And so, for us to be able to provide accessible and cheaper IVF services, we may need to resort to other medications from other countries, such as India, China, and the rest of them. They provide such medications. It may not be as potent as their counterparts from Europe, United Kingdom, and US, but at least they've been giving us some results. And then, of course, the pregnancy rates are not bad compared to those that are using other more expensive drugs. And then, of course, we're also resorting to the issue of low-cost IVF, where we're beginning to have a situation where people are using cheaper medications, cheaper access to media and the likes. And then it's beginning to, even gamete sharing and the likes are becoming available in most of our IVF service provider clinics. So these are helping to cut down costs. Okay. But there are other things that can be done by government and the rest, where fertility service can be captured on our health insurance scheme. To the best of my knowledge, this is yet to be done. Things or disease conditions like malaria, typhoid, urinary tract infection, emergency obstetric care are well captured. But fertility is yet to be captured. If the government can wade into this, our HMOs, our insurance companies will be able to assist, even our banks and financial institutions may be able to help our indigent couples who are looking for assistance.
What is your advice now to couples who are going through 1 or 2 kind of reproductive health issue now?
Now, the main advice I will ask them is, or I will give them, is to recognize that they have a problem. If a couple has a problem, or a person has a problem, he should first and foremost recognize that he or she has a problem. And then that will help that person to look for help at the right places. So go and see a doctor. Go to the hospital and seek for help. And I'm sure that you are going to get one when you go there.
Many thanks, Doctor. I know we cannot exhaust or overemphasize the issue of reproductive health, but we have to leave it here for now. Many thanks for coming on Health Options, Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. Thank you very much.
Are you a lover of tea? What do you know about the different types and its effect on the general well-being? A tea specialist, Hassan Muhammad Ali, will be taking us through the world of green tea on our Nature's Corner segment.
Welcome to Nature's Corner. Today we are going to talk about organic infusion. Organic infusion is a kind of tea that is specifically made for, is individualized. According to our body chemistry, that means we need a marker that will identify what is beneficial, harmful, and neutral to your blood type. So we now take what is centrally good to all the blood types to produce a kind of tea that people will not react to. So the whole essence of it is our health is what we take in. So, and food is medicine, though it is a paradox too, because food can be poisonous as well, because if you take the wrong one, the one that will counteract against your system, you are bound to face certain ailments. So what we are trying to advise that you go around taking any kind of type of tea. You don't know whether there's something there that may go against your body chemistry. What we are saying now, why can't you gravitate towards the tea that is your own type? Your own type of tea that will now go, and probably also what health target do you want to achieve. Now in the age of IT, ignorance is a choice. You can Google or make your own research and find what bioactive compounds you want to take in and for what health targets you want to achieve. Thank God there's a groundbreaking research now that we actually react to food and herbs and tea according to our blood type. And I think that research has been made by one Peter D. Adamo, which tabulates foods according to different three categories into beneficial, harmful, and neutral. So he categorized the beneficial as medicine, which will help you boost your immune system and probably cure you of diseases. While the neutral ones give you basic energy to go about your daily business. But then the harmful one counteracts against your system. It acts like poison, which may harm you. That's why we are saying, why should you just go for a meeting or for any joint and you take any type of tea? What we do at My Brew is we now take, once we know your blood type, we know what health target you want to achieve, we now curate your tea according to that specific target. Don't you take guava tea for goodness sake? Guava leaves tea? Mommy must have been preparing something like that for you at home. Uncle must have borrowed some exotic herbs from the bush, and they brew it for you at home and take. In Africa, we have more tea than you can get in the whole wide world. And it is part of our culture to be taking tea. It's just that probably we have not been calling it tea. We are waiting for the white man to come and call it tea before we make it. So what I want to do, I want to sensitize people. Instead of taking tea that they have put on the shelf, which has a long life, those things have preservatives. Okay. So we have tea that can balance hormones, balancing of hormones. We have tea that's good for diabetic patients. We have tea that's good for those with high blood pressure. We also have tea for people that are obese. And we have tea people that who have coronary infections and more. God has blessed us with a lot of greens. So what we are saying, go green and let it be your cup of tea. Tea is easy to make. All you need to make tea is hot water. And you infuse those organic things into it and you now take.
That That's our package for this week. You can watch these and previous episodes of Health Options on our YouTube channel at www.nta.gov.ng. We welcome your questions, comments, and suggestions. Thanks for watching.